Welcome everyone to Bangladesh Unboxed. This is the latest and the greatest podcast on all things Bangladesh. This is Shafkat Rabi, your host from Dallas, Texas, and I am co-hosted today by Jyoti Rahman, Macroeconomist from Canberra, Australia. Jyoti Rahman was the director of Australian Foreign Office. And then we have Zulkarnain Saer, investigative journalist for Al Jazeera's Investigative unit. Saer is joining us from London. Welcome both to the show.
Thank you very much for inviting us to your show, Shafkat. Pleasure to be here.
It's exciting to be here, very excited to be here, and let's get going.
Our first topic for the day is the by-election that happened in Bangladesh on July 17th. There was a by-election because one of the members of parliament passed. And the election was in Dhaka 17, which is one of the most important constituencies of the country. It's in the capital. It is in a place where you have the cantonment, the military establishment, and various diplomatic establishments there, like both foreign and local. So it's a very important constituency. And in that constituency, the by-election was taking place without any major opposition party taking part in it. In that backdrop, you have this character, Hero Alam. He's basically a TikToker, a YouTuber, a digital content creator, and a cringe video maker. He almost won it, didn't he? Wasn't he almost winning this?
Yeah, absolutely.
Turnout was extremely low, and the people who did show up, so less than 10%, more than half of them seemed to be voting for Alam. So that is extraordinary in itself. As you said, a cringe video maker with very little organized political backing from any political party, almost winning. If the election had been free and fair, he might have actually made it.
And in some of the opinion polls that I have seen, he was actually crashing it.
In Bangladesh, right, it's a 160 million, 200 million people crammed in a very small place. It's a very difficult place to govern. So anti-incumbency is always right. Whoever is in power loses popularity very quickly. This had happened to the current opposition, BNP, when that was in power. It has happened to Awami League. In the past, when there were local government and by-elections that were held freely and fairly, anti-incumbency is very common in Bangladesh. If there were genuine opposition parties, people probably would have voted for them. But there weren't, so it may have been just basically, you know what, I'm going to pump for this guy, even though it probably doesn't matter, but I'm still going to do it because I just don't like the way things are.
Did any of you watch Hero Alam's videos? What he does and stands for?
Yes, of course. Yeah.
Are you a fan, Saer?
Tell us about it, your thoughts.
Are you a fan, Saer? For full disclosure.
Well, not really a fan. If you just think about it, like in a broad perspective, the situation in Bangladesh has become such that you can't really criticize the government. Yeah, the newspapers, they can't really publish any news criticizing the government, which would somehow hold them accountable in any way. They can't do that. Whether Hero Alam, on the other hand, Hero Alam, being a very cringe guy, being someone coming from a very grassroots level, he makes absurd videos, absurd music with no proper composition, no proper lyrics or whatever it is. And I just see him that it's some kind of a way of probably bullying the government, a way of rebuking them, like in a very sarcastic way. So I kind of feel amused at some point, like by looking at him, that he is making songs about their prime minister, songs of the prime minister's late father, songs about the developments the prime minister have done. And to me, it is kind of amusing because I kind of consider that he is doing it for humiliating purposes.
This is kind of some kind of absurdist comedy that, European and American geniuses, famous writers couldn't probably come up with.
Right. So even though we can make fun of Hero Alam's cringeworthy internet activities, his political activities have been quite impressive. He was a candidate back in 2018 where he ran for office from Bogura, and then he was beaten up by the same government forces. And then again in 2023, just like a few days ago, he got badly beaten up by the pro-government hooligans. And this time around, which didn't happen last time, almost the entirety of the Western governments, whatever exists in Bangladesh, meaning all the high commissions that are there and the embassies that are there, all of them wrote on his behalf, right? They have this letter out where they ask the government to investigate and punish the folks who beaten up Hero Alam. That's a remarkable development in itself, particularly for a person, as we say, a cringe video maker.
I don't necessarily think it has been done for Hero Alam as a cringe video maker. I think it has been done for a opposition party member who has taken part in an election and who was attacked, who was not allowed to participate in a proper democratic way. If you see in that seat, there was no opposition candidate. It was Arafat. There was a Jatiya Party guy. Jatiya Party again is in alliance with the government. There is no BNP candidate. There is no Jamaat candidate. Hero Alam was only the main opposition candidate there. As he has a large follower base on the social media sites, of course, people have certain interest on him. They see him as somebody who makes mockery of various elements of the statecraft. So I think they have that affection for him. So it's not necessarily that the foreign envoy, like the foreign high commissions, foreign embassies, they issued a statement just because of him. I think it's because more of the position or more of the cause he was representing.
Absolutely. He became basically effectively the de facto opposition in this election, and the pro-democracy voices around the world stood by him, which is a fantastic and the right thing to do for them. Now, let me ask a broader question, though. From a strategic standpoint, what were the options for the government, right? So let's play a game. So if you are the Sheikh Hasina government or whoever manages her affairs, you had few choices. One of the choices was to let Hero Alam win. That would signal the whole world that the government is in such bad shape that a cringe video maker wins against their candidate, who is a think tank president or whatever. The other option is, which is basically what they did, which is just rig it. Like just rig the election and make their candidate win. Neither of them are good options for the government, but basically they chose the latter. But I'm also willing to make the case that there was not much of a choice. The government was always ready to rig it at any given day of the week, anytime there is election. They just rigged it because that's what they do. So what does it mean for the real election, which is about 3-4 months? What does it portend? Like, what do you guys think is the signal that the government gave to the international community by rigging this election?
I agree with you. Losing would have made them look really, really bad. This is in the heart of Dhaka. If you lose to a political non-entity, that basically means your support has fallen away to such low scale. You wouldn't want to do that. Fair enough. Or I get that. However, the way they did it, sort of, for me, that actually was quite surprising. Again, in the morning, it was quite peaceful. Turnout was very low. People who were coming in, it seemed, were actually pumping for Alam. So they went on a ransack in the afternoon. They beat him up, tried to bump up the votes and so on. If you compare this with the way they used to rig in the past, where the operation was, for the lack of any better word, much smoother, they had basically done the job the previous night. That's how they used to operate. So to me, that's actually quite an interesting development, that they lost control, it seems, operationally. So that's one side. Again, this is in Dhaka. This is not somewhere in the countryside where logistics is difficult, where communication is hard, and so on. I wonder whether it portends that the center is not holding anymore, that the regime's tight grip on running these things smoothly is coming undone.
And it also probably means that no matter how much the pressure is from the Western governments regarding a free and fair election, it is quite possible that come January, the same state machinery will just go their old-fashioned way and then do what they do. Basically just go and rig it and then think about it and then strategize about it, like how to handle with it. So that's probably the signal that we are getting from this affair. This is the same machine and it only runs one way, and they will just run it the same way and then rig it. What do you think? That as a forecast?
You cannot teach an old dog new trick. So I don't know if you guys have a pet. I have a dog. You cannot teach an old dog new trick. It will do what you had taught it before. And the state machinery that Sheikh Hasina runs is probably an old dog. It's probably too late to teach it new tricks, such as free and fair election.
It's an old, injured, and cornered dog at this point. All right, so on that note, let's move on to our second topic of discussion, which is the article, like an investigative article that Saer released a few months ago about Bangladesh's regulatory authority for the capital market, BSEC. The chairman of that entity was involved in some sort of international scam where some scammers from Hong Kong were scamming folks in Australia and some other parts of the world. And then there was a Bangladeshi involved in that game. And then that Bangladeshi person remitted $800,000 to Bangladesh's capital market chief. So let's hear more about that from Saer.
Yeah, so basically this story I did was for Organized Crime and Corruption Reporting Project, OCCRP. What happened was a Hong Kong-based investment firm was scammed by some very sophisticated scammers who were based out of Hong Kong. And they approached this company saying that if that Hong Kong company invests on them, they're going to give very good returns. That company fell for it, invested $13 million. That $13 million went into an account in the United States to a company's bank account named Monarch Holdings. And the person behind that Monarch Holding was Javed Mateen. Javed Mateen happens to be a very good friend of Bangladesh's top Securities and Exchange Commission chairman, Mr. Shibli Wahidul Islam. They both went to university together. And Mr. Shibli met Javed a few times during his trips to the US. And so Mateen received the $30 million into two accounts. And from that $30 million, he transferred $874,000 to his friend Shibli Rubait's account.
Okay, so let me ask you a few questions here just to get it straight. So the scammers scammed who? Like from which country? Like the scammers are based off of Hong Kong?
Scammers scammed a Hong Kong-based company, yes.
So the investor was a Hong Kong-based company. Are these people from Bangladesh or totally outside of Bangladesh people?
No, the owner of the Hong Kong-based company is an Australian national. And those scammers did not only scam the Australian, like that Australian-owned company, they also scammed many Australians who were in the mainland Australia. So the story is quite broad. There was recently an Australian news channel who did a video story basically on one part of that. But what I covered was only the Bangladesh part of it, that where nearly $1 million came to Bangladesh.
Got it. So the scammers are from Hong Kong or whatever. Their victims are Australians and Hong Kong and other countries, right?
Canadians, yes, Hong Kong, like people in Hong Kong, people in Taiwan, people in Malaysia.
Got it. And then somehow Javed Motin was part of the scam, like or the scamming group, or he was an acquaintance of that?
He was a figure. He was a big figure in the scamming group. Big figure in the sense that this guy have been involved with stock manipulation since 2000s. He is a blacklisted person by the United States Security Exchange Commission because of pumping and dumping of shares. In 2 occasions, he was fined $13 million sometime in 2012. He was again fined $100 million in 2011 for pumping and dumping stocks from a company called Validity International. And in 2015, he was imprisoned for bank fraud.
Was he imprisoned in the US?
In the United States, in the US.
Right. Okay.
Yes.
Wow.
So this is a white-collar criminal, right? I mean, as in alleged, but actually convicted and jailed, right?
Yes, right. So
did he serve any jail time? Do you know?
Yes, he did. He did serve some jail time, and then he was released for under supervision for 27 months supervised release. He was released sometime in 2015 again. So he was in jail for a couple of months.
All right.
And he was released on.
Got it. So let's move on from that guy. So Javed Motin is a convicted, well-proven criminal who had activities in the United States. So then he got some company in Hong Kong or some friendship with some other scammers in Hong Kong. And then they scammed people.
He basically has a network with these organized transnational criminal groups who are involved in this kind of financial scamming.
Right. And then Javed Motin happens to be a friend of Bangladesh's Stock Regulatory Authority. And then you guys figured out that there was a transmission of $800,000+ to Bangladeshi regulatory chief's bank account.
So what happened was that $13 million he scammed from that Hong Kong company. He received this money into two companies in the US. And Javed Motin was a signatory in both the companies, and the companies were in the name of Javed Motin's partner, Veronica. So Javed Motin transferred $874,000 to his friend Shibli Rubaiyat's bank account in Bangladesh. So, and out of that 275
in Bangladesh.
Yes.
So he transmitted $800,000 from the US bank account to Bangladeshi bank account.
Right. Yes.
Okay. All right. So now, to be fair on that guy, Shibli Rubaiyat, what did he tell you guys about the purpose of that transfer?
Well, basically, as I mentioned to you, that the Australian company IFW Global, they did their investigations, and we received all the evidences from IFW, and we did our own verification. We contacted all the banks, we contacted all the parties involved, and we figured out that Mr. Shibli told everybody that the money he received was basically for advanced rent for a property he owns in Saer. For industrial building. And then we sent our people there, and we couldn't find any tenant. The manager of the building told us that there was nobody, there was no tenant here. And we kind of established that entire tenancy contract that he furnished to the court and everybody, because IFW assigned a lawyer in Bangladesh to demand this money. We have the legal notice and everything. And Mr. Shibli then told the court that this money is basically rental money, which we figured is not very correct statement.
So what is your, I know you are not a lawyer, and I know you are not prosecuting this gentleman. What is your suspicion? What's going on in here? Is he getting paid for some other scam that Javed Motin is running in Dhaka? And then he's getting paid?
Well, what happened was Javed Motin's, after this scam, there was a major investigation in the United States involving several federal investigative agencies. And Javed Motin basically left before the investigation started. There was a criminal case ongoing in the USA sometime in 2020. They moved to Bangladesh. Javed Motin started a stock brokering house business in Bangladesh. in partnership with Saqib Al Hasan, Bangladesh's star cricketer. And to get that license, to get that brokering license, it's called TREC, track license. It's a trading rights entitlement certificate. And it requires approval from the BSEC, where Shibli Rubaiyat is the chairman. And there are some prerequisites. Like one prerequisite is that anybody who is blacklisted by any stock exchange in the world who has been convicted as a financial criminal is not supposed to get this license. But despite Javed Mateen received this license.
So a straightforward reading, right? And without any of us being a lawyer, but a straightforward reading might be that this is just a bribe to get a license. Right?
Well, that we do not know whether that's a bribe or not, but it is very surprising that somebody like Javed Mateen, who is a carrier, like even if you Google Javed Mateen, you will find that guy was sentenced in the US court and all. That should definitely ring a bell, that you don't give a sophisticated license like this, a highly regulated license like the track license, to a convicted scam star like Javed Mateen.
Now, so this guy now has got the license already, right?
Yes, he has the license. He received the license in 2021, May.
Okay, so let me summarize then. What we heard so far is that this man, Shibli Rubaiyat Islam, do you know much about his qualifications?
Basically, Shibli Rubaiyat Islam, he started his career with some entrepreneurial activities. He had some garments business. He had a garments called Rhyme Group. Then he joined Dhaka University. He started doing some kind of he became an academic, kind of an academic basically at some point. But again, his personal background is not that sound. Like he is the regulator of Bangladesh Securities and Exchange Commission, the chairman, but he has some kind of bad loans in the past. As I was telling you, for the audience and also for you guys, like the story that I have done is a fraction of a bigger story. So the bigger story was basically done by 7 News Spotlight of Australia. If you go to YouTube, you'll find there's a story called Busting $1 Million British Scammer Cartel by 7 News Spotlight documentary. And then you will be able to watch what actually happened there. And again, if you just look at the portfolio of this person, this man is responsible for bringing investments to Bangladesh.
Right. Hey, so
he's traveling around the world, inviting investors that invest in Bangladesh, and he has received money from these kind of dubious people.
That's right. That is amazing, because I know and I'm fully aware that this man was holding road shows only a few years ago in the United States, in Silicon Valley, in New York, and in some other cities, soliciting investment in Bangladesh's capital market.
More interestingly, when he did that I know when that happened. That happened in 2021, sometime in April. And when he traveled to the United States for that roadshow, he was stopped at the US immigration and interrogated for his involvement in this case. And he was only spared because he was traveling with a diplomatic passport, and Bangladesh embassy intervened, and then he was spared by the...
So, Jyoti Rahman, what do you think is the implication for having such an explosive report on a country's head of the regulatory division for the capital markets?
Yeah. So look, so this is not this is an explosive report, absolutely. But sadly, this is not all that surprising, in the sense that he's not the first incompetent or allegedly corrupt person to be put in senior position. Bangladesh Bank had a big international hacking job a few years back, and I think a documentary is coming up soon about that $1 billion heist.
Yeah, it's going to be released on 14th August, by the way. A very significant day.
Yeah, there you go. So, yeah. And there has been many other financial scams. So, in that sense, it's probably, as explosive as it may be, it may also be just the tip of the iceberg, which is very scary, because despite all the development stories that we hear, and many of them actually are genuine progress, Bangladesh is still a desperately poor country. It still needs a lot of foreign investment. But who's going to invest when, sort of somebody comes up on a roadshow and you find out that the guy who's doing the sales pitch is involved with a convicted criminal? Are you going to put your money in there?
Well, I'm not. I hope neither of you guys are doing the same. So that's a very poignant question and a very simple answer. All right. So I think we came to the closure of this episode today. So we are almost done. So thank you both for joining with me today. Hope to see you guys again. And thanks a lot to all our listeners for listening in. Until next time, goodbye.